will that, if you leave, will that mess things up? Or I guess you can just.
No, I'm going to leave it open. I'll just go
right.
downstairs for a couple minutes and come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sounds
Perfect.
good. Thanks,
You're good to go. Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, we can't see even the little Zoom thing. Oh, maybe I need to do this.
You get the line.
Which one?
Minimize the line.
There we go. Thanks. Good teamwork there. There we go. Perfect. All right. Welcome everyone to the November. That's the month we're in November leadership team meeting. Thanks everyone for being here. We have a new leadership team member joining us, which is very exciting. Thanks, Debbie, for being here. Yeah, we usually do kind of like round of introductions. There's usually like I try and come up with a good icebreaker intro question. I didn't for today, but
I was thinking, what is the embarrassing question going to be?
Well, because I think I assume you don't know most of the folks here, so maybe just more of it, like a little bit more of an intro about who you are and the work you do. Let's see, Anne, do you want to start? Yeah, throw that into the table.
Maybe the one person who has met before, but I'm Anne Ruberger. I work here at the Planning Commission and have worked here since 2003, so it's been a while. But I am the manager of the county planning section. I work on some of these bigger county-wide topics that don't really fit neatly into any particular mold here. I work on farming and food issues. I work on updating the county's comprehensive plan. Yesterday in the housing, I don't even know what we're calling those meetings, the housing brain trust meeting. I do a little bit of everything, which keeps my job always busy, but always interesting.
I didn't know you've been here that long.
I have been here that long. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a farmer and I manage a business called Tomorrow's Homestead, where we have a land access program that leases out land to small and beginning farmers. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Are you back at the Chestnut Hill Farmers Market this morning?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm trying to rest this winter.
Okay.
Yeah, my season's over, so yeah.
I'm Sam Applefield, Food Policy Coordinator in the Office of Public Health, and I help manage the Food Policy Council, among other things. Yeah.
Shanita Fields. I'm a community health educator in the Office of Public Health. I do education programs on an array of just health promotion topics: gardening, nutrition, blood pressure, anything that's going to like prevent chronic disease, getting ready to start doing STI and HIV stuff. And I've been at the county for almost 6 years.
Nice to meet you all. I'm Davy Ramkissoon. I started in August as the Chief Sustainability Officer for the county. Prior to this, I was the Executive Director of an organization called the Sustainable Business Network of Greater Philadelphia. I shared with Sam that the work of this council is especially near and dear to me. I started off my career in food security. I worked for the longest bit with the U.S. Agency for International Development, working on famine early warning systems and also working on food security programs with farmers around the world. And my, food security has been the entry point into sustainability for me. So I know I'm not supposed to be partial for sustainability topics, but food security is especially one of my favorites, and if I can say that, and really excited to be working with you all.
Yeah, really excited for have you as part of the council. All right, Carla or Shannon, do you want to go next?
I can go. My name is Carla Clanigan, and I am the Deputy Chief Program Officer at Share Food Program. What that means is I am responsible for the program network of meal providers in Montgomery County that are part of the Share Network. We run the Senior Box program, the government program, um, and the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, which are those farmers market vouchers. Um, and we also do the National School Lunch Program here in Montgomery County.
I'm Shannon Isaacs. I'm the Executive Director of the Montco Anti-Hunger Network. We're the backbone agency for food security in Montgomery County. We're a coalition of close to 80 food pantries, food banks, and free meal providers. We do innovation work, testing new ideas around food insecurity. We do collaboration work. So we co-sponsor the Core Community Council with this body, which is a council of everybody in the food security space to provide input into the Food Policy Council here and into the Montco Anti-Hunger Network Board. We also provide emergency food. We've been upping that. It seems like every year we keep upping it, but I think we're going to break 1 million pounds this year, which is really exciting for the first time in normal times. I also come to food security similarly through international development work. And I think we've been sticking our toes into pieces of international resources for Montgomery County as well over the last probably 2 years. So I'm really excited to hear about your time at USAID. It sounds amazing.
All right, well, thanks everyone for the intros, and sorry, Anne, to not have a good question to for us this morning.
Got all of you.
Yeah.
Business today, no?
All right, so yeah, on our agenda today, a lot of updates on kind of where things stand with SNAP right now, overview of the working groups, a few other updates, and then talking a little bit about what we have, what we're going to try and do together in 2026. That's kind of on our agenda for today. But first, yeah, there's no members of the public here for public comment, so we'll go to approving the October meeting minutes. I'll pull them up quickly. We had Juliana and Ian from the Food Trust give an overview of what's happening on their end and the Nutrition Navigator tool. We talked a lot about SNAP because the end of October, it was right as the kind of pause was just taking effect. Yeah, and then did a lot of the same updates that we'll be doing today. Anyone have questions or comments from the October meeting minutes? All right. All those in favor of approving the October meeting minutes? Is here. Okay, thanks. Carla, Shannon, get a hand or a verbal vote? Got you, Carla, thanks.
Sounds great.
Okay. Approved unanimously. All right, so then SNAP updates. So yeah, again, as mentioned last time we met, there's this kind of pause that was had just started, though the real kind of effect of it was just about to kind of hit in early November. Yeah, let's see. The long story short is SNAP updates have been restored, or SNAP benefits have been restored. When the federal government shutdown ended, then we had heard there was going to be kind of like a long lag between kind of money starting to flow and then it like getting all the way onto folks' EBT cards. That didn't end up being the case. It was like 24 hours or so. So yeah, it was. I can't remember the date now. I'm trying to look at calendar, but let's see. Yeah, the weekend of like the 14th and the 15th was when kind of benefits were fully restored. So, and I have was on a call earlier in the week with some like statewide anti-hunger food security organizations, and no one had heard of any issues with benefits being redistributed. It sounds like that all went smoothly. So obviously that is a big relief. From the, in terms of the, the first kind of 2 weeks in early November, like heard from pantries that some were seeing kind of like double the volume that they normally saw. Some not quite double, but still like really significant increases. Some did have to turn people away. Not all, not across the board, but there was some of that was happening. And pantries also, this also varied, but a lot saw some really strong community response, really big increase in donations and volunteers and things like that. Yeah, I think what I had heard, and Shannon and I talked about this a bit yesterday, is that this week right now is generally kind of one of the busiest of the year for pantries, just in the lead up to Thanksgiving. And so that we weren't really expecting numbers to drop. That demand this week, maybe next week, would still be kind of incredibly high. But hopefully after that, we'll start to kind of get back to normal. Yeah, I don't know, Carla or Shannon, if either of you have anything you want to add from, any pantries or that you've been in touch with, or anything else about how the last few weeks was for you both.
What I will say, what I'm hearing and what I've seen and what I've participated in over the past probably 2 weeks, actually, as things have been winding down, our pantries have seen an influx of community support. Here in Montgomery County, we've been, I mean, even in Delaware County, like we've been really, really, really blessed to have such a large community support, so much so that um, the sites have used our space for storage. We have so many food drives happening that we have trucks going all over the place trying to get food from a food drive business to one of the pantries that's nearby. Um, we've done really, really well with community support in our county. And what I love about our pantries, we spread the wealth. So there's been a lot of phone calls saying, hey, we just have like too much to fit and too much to use right now. And so they're spreading it to those community pantries that don't get as much, like their community just doesn't, there wasn't that many food drives or that many collections. So that's been really nice to see. Now, take it with a grain of salt, right? Because when I say they're getting a lot and it's too much, I mean they are, but the need is there. So it's like in and out, in and out. But they've been able to keep it going. There have been we did the Boy Scout drives happened this past weekend. And so Manna utilized our property and we were there with them, Man on Main, to help with that food drive, the drop-offs and the packing of those pallets. And they got 19,845 pounds. And they probably tipped 20,000 pounds based off of some of the late drop-offs that happened after we all left like Saturday at 3. So I think that has been a big help. The government stuff is picking up, TFAP's picking up a little bit. Share has been able to order sides and chickens, and all of those went really, really quickly. TFAP's picking up a little bit. We're seeing an increase in what's coming in, especially down the pike on those lists and offerings. We're seeing a little bit of an increase there. Now that the budget has passed, we're hoping to get that and be able to really ramp up some more offerings. At Share, we also have kind of put forth some money to be able to offer our sites until we get the actual budget money. So the sites that are partners of Share will receive some allocation money to help fill in the gaps of what they see on their shelves, because food drive stuff is great and it's wonderful. However, they know specifically what they need and what the people they serve are requesting. So hopefully this little bump in allocation money will help them meet those more specific needs. And other than that, the sites are reporting, and we've had several meetings. We don't anticipate a drop or a decline in clients visiting the sites. Most of the sites have reported, somewhere between our numbers are showing somewhere between 14% and 20% increase in weekly visits. So they don't anticipate that going down. I think what happened is people that have not visited a pantry before started coming because of all the shutdowns and not receiving paychecks and SNAP benefits. And they realized that our pantries are a great resource.
Mm.
And so we don't anticipate ever going back to the other numbers, the numbers prior to all the closures and SNAP changes. So the pantries are just trying to really stay ramped up and prepared. And at Share, we're just coming up with new innovative ways to be able to serve and bring in more food and not have to rely so much on what's happening in the government.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that update, Carla. I appreciate you, again, just sharing kind of what you've been seeing, what you've been hearing. Just to pull a few things out of what you mentioned. One, that kind of, as you said, if there's any kind of silver lining in all this, it's been kind of that community response and the way that, again, people have stepped up and pantries have helped coordinate and all of that. And then also, I think you were, referencing that the state budget has also passed. I think it was the same day the federal government shutdown ended. And so that's some of that funding from the state that's now starting to flow. And actually, there's been an increase in funding for some of the state food purchase program and the ag surplus system, and some additional funding that's like still unclear exactly what it's going to be used for, but to help reduce food waste and improve food security was kind of the line in the budget. So waiting for more info from the Department of Ag on that. But I want to mention a few other things about kind of like the county response as well. But Shannon, do you have anything else you wanted to add or share at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think just echoing Carla, we've seen, I think the pantries, of all the pantries in the county, about 30 of them are share pantries. I think the non-share pantries are seeing the same things as what you're hearing from the pantries that are served by Share Food Program, that there just increases outpourings of community support, which has been so incredibly positive. I think, efforts by all the food providers. I know you all have been working on it, and Phil Abundance has been working on it, and we've been working on it, trying to increase food access. Mon was able to, we really appreciated the county provided $500,000 of food purchasing to all of the food security organizations that was distributed through Mon. Everyone on the Mon team worked. We worked around the clock for about a week to get that turned around. So that money's been distributed, and that way pantries can fill in the gaps that they need. People have said it's been very incredibly helpful and very impactful. One thing I will mention that our data report, we do a lot of data work, which I can send to all of you if you weren't able to see it at the conference. We did a survey of pantry guests, and about 30% of pantry guests are interested in help enrolling in SNAP, which shows that I think there's a lot of untapped need. One thing that I've heard, and I don't know more details on, except for that the federal, some higher ranking officials in the federal government have said that people will need to reapply for SNAP, and I don't know any details about timeline or anything, but I think there may be more that we have to respond to. I also have to say, I think we were 5 days away from a really big problem. I think we just got in. I think there were a few pantries that turned away. I think we were about 5 days away from just massive turnaways across the board. Is my take. I mean, I think of Manna as being one of the best resourced pantries, and they they were talking about their signups and they're like, well, I mean, obviously we were not going to be able to feed all these people eventually that have signed up. So I think the response was admirable and the community outpouring of support was admirable. And I think we were very close to something very serious happening.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. Yeah, so I think you mentioned the county's allocation. So in terms of kind of the overall county response, that was yeah, $500,000 that working with Mon to distribute through to all the pantries to be able to purchase food. We also put up a website, with information about where to find food and also how you can get involved if you're, community members looking to support. And we had a bunch of flyers as well for, again, about where to find food, how to get involved. Some also specifically for businesses, and worked with our commerce department to kind of push that out. And we also had like a little survey that went along with the outreach the commerce department was doing. So we got feedback from, I think it was like 12 or so businesses that all, had different things. Some organized a food drive, some offered food at free or a discount for people with EBT cards. So it was really cool to see that kind of response as well. Yeah, and then we had hosted a webinar at the end of October with Shannon and Ryan Prater from Feeding Pennsylvania. We had almost 400 people on the call. So, just in terms of the interest and, role that the county and council played in helping to share information, make sure people knew what was happening. And then, so yeah, just wanted to mention or highlight kind of some of the work that that was happening here to respond. And then picking up on something you mentioned, Shannon, about SNAP enrollment, that's something we had been, but before the pause in benefits, we had been concerned about the new work requirements and working with the partner organizations that do benefit enrollment to try and help folks navigate those changes. So now that this kind of we're through this crisis, we can kind of go back to the one that we were looking at before. And again, we had a flyer that was, saying there are some changes to the SNAP program. Like here are organizations that you can contact to learn how to maintain your benefits. So that's something we can, we'll be working to try and distribute. And Shannon, we could talk, and Carla too, we could talk about kind of how to get that out through the pantries. If there are, if there's, as you said, 30% of people visiting the pantries are saying they're interested in getting help or learning more about signing up for SNAP. That's something we can help try and facilitate.
Can I ask a question though?
Yeah.
Going back to what Shannon said about having this new requirement for people to re-enroll in. I don't think that this is the end of the attacks on the emergency food network here in this country. And I was telling Sam that prior to this meeting, I was listening in on the Continuum of Care's emergency meeting. The Continuum of Care is a board, a county board that helps make funding decisions for emergency housing, mostly up until the end of last week, for permanent supportive housing, money that can go to help people live permanently somewhere. That's being completely upended as well, and threatening to eliminate, it will eliminate housing vouchers and supports for 100 households, 150 households, who won't necessarily have anywhere to go. And so now it's the housing advocates that are scrambling, trying to figure out what they can do to secure funding and pivot their programming. And it's the same. I mean, it's the same concern and the same issue, and attacking people who don't have much in the way of protecting themselves. So like, what's gonna be next? And I don't think that we should stop having these conversations on what we should be doing, because there will be something next. And I don't know what.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good point. Something, again, Shannon and I were just talking about yesterday of doing like some kind of resiliency planning with among the kind of charitable food system, which I think I, kind of hadn't put those two things together, but I think it's a really good just point about, the need for that kind of planning as anticipating further attacks or cuts to some of the programs that we rely on.
And I see that you've got your hand up, Jen. I just wanted to say that someone who was on this call said that she was listening in, I guess, to her husband's meetings yesterday on this topic, and that the general sense is that the federal government's goal is to get as many people off of public assistance as possible, right? Pivoting the money that we use to prop up the neediest of the nation, and I guess giving it to the wealthiest friends of Donald Trump. And so, if that's the case, then, there will be some aspect of food support and food insecurity that is the next in line.
Yeah. Shannon, go ahead.
I was wondering, listening to what you were saying, Anne, and wondering what you all think about this idea. I'm wondering if it might be helpful for us to do maybe two forms of planning. I think there's the food security planning, which I think is like planning for shocks that Sam and I talked about yesterday, which I think having a plan that includes the county and Share and Fill Abundance and Garden of Health and all the pantries and Mon, I think could be really powerful for that. But I'm wondering, and I'm curious what you all think about doing something that is two other forms of planning. One is looking at poverty from a multidimensional lens. So instead of breaking into food security and housing and all the different components, what if we did some planning, because it's the same people, what if we did some planning that looked at all of them together and all of the shocks to, here are all the different aspects of poverty, housing, food, access to education, looking at multidimensional poverty from sort of a adapted to the United States and Canada lens. Here are all the different aspects of the impacts of that poverty. Here are all the interventions. Here are the impacts of the interventions. And then here are how these different pieces are going to intersect with each other and compound with each other. I wonder if looking at it all together, there might be clearer solutions and also clearer vulnerabilities. The other thing I wonder about that and I'm curious what you all think about this, I'm really concerned about is that doing some planning around intersecting vulnerabilities and identities. So I think that all of these different pieces related to identity have a huge impact on poverty and therefore a huge impact on food insecurity. And when exposed to shocks, different identities are disproportionately impacted. So I think an easy example is, so you have a disabled mother who's a single mom who has a 5-year-old kid who can't walk. If there's a hurricane, we're going to need to do more for her because she's going to be disproportionately impacted by a hurricane, and that 5-year-old is going to be disproportionately impacted by the hurricane. But I think looking at sort of different pieces of access to wealth, gender, disability status, age, sort of different intersecting identities and how they're going to respond to those shocks might help us protect some of the most vulnerable people, because some people are going to be disproportionately impacted by this and it's going to be awful.
Can I just add to that, Jenna, what you articulated is almost exactly what I'm hoping to do in sustainability plan that I'm starting to work on as well. I really like the sort of layers of thinking about multidimensional poverty and also how that ties in with community resilience, just in terms of responding to shocks and stressors, to climate related events as well. And I think to your point, they're all overlapping, right? They go hand in hand, and thinking about what we can do in the county to be able to proactively respond to those types of issues before they become crisis level issues. and thinking about it obviously from, you know, the environmental side, but also recognizing that that goes in hand with issues like food security and housing security, et cetera. But wanting to be, you know, much more thoughtful. I don't have all the answers right now, but I feel as though kind of having the programming developed out of, you know, recognizing that need is one way to approach it. And I really liked, this is a little slightly different example, but I really liked the way that the Philly tree plan was written because it does look at those multiple dimensions of vulnerabilities for communities. And obviously the tree plan was focused on planting trees, but and we're talking about something slightly different here, but I like the perspective of thinking or taking a more systems level approach and kind of understanding a complex issue from all of those angles.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's yeah, I was hoping that either you or Anne would be able to respond in terms of, you know, I didn't know that the sustainability plan is something that you were thinking about or working on, and it seemed like that might tie in. And I don't know, in terms of other planning efforts underway at the county, how this would, you know, what Shannon was talking about would connect or not. If you have any thoughts?
I mean, our county comprehensive plan work is trying to look at these issues at a fairly high level, but is really focused for the most part on what the planning commission can address.
Mm.
But I do think that I agree with Shannon that maybe thinking about these wider poverty issues together makes sense, so that we're not always putting out these fires. So, because I can't possibly imagine that there's always going to be another pot of $500,000 to throw at the next cause of concern, right? It's going to be one crisis after another.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe it's something we can talk a little bit more about the sustainability plan or the comprehensive plan and think about the food. It's funny, in terms of like thinking about next year, that was a question I had about like a food systems plan, if that's something that we would want to do. But where all those things might fit in or connect. Yeah, how to think about them.
I mean, we can talk about this further, Sam, but in my mind, you know, tackling issues of food and ag are tied in with what I saw coming out of the sustainability plan. It may not be, you know, a food systems plan like you're talking about, but I feel as though it could be very closely related and could be a way of trying to get some of those, you know, core issues in a planning document that is actionable at the county level.
Right. Great. Well, yeah, I think that seems like a good kind of next step for this is maybe we can chat more about what that planning process might look like and include, and then think through like what, if there are other things, how it could connect with other things or what else might be needed there.
Yeah, you may not have seen the message just yet, but Lee yesterday sent out invite to all department heads to ask them to designate 1 to 2 staffers from their departments to participate in the sustainability committee.
Nice.
And we're looking to have those names finalized by December 19th, so we can convene soon after that.
Perfect. That sounds good. That's exciting.
I
That's,
It must have gone to Scott, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I'm sure John Lesher gets a spot ahead of me, but
John may be tired of all things
Yeah.
sustainability because he's the de facto sustainability person.
okay.
just one other thing, kind of going back to, I think what started this conversation with, and I think Shannon, you had mentioned too, the comments from, who was the USDA Secretary Rollins, saying that like, you know, I guess they've been trying to, there was like some news story that they've found, you know, I don't know, a number of people that are deceased that are still like receiving SNAP benefits. So, you know, they're kind of trying to put the focus back on fraud, abuse, and waste. And so that's, what led to this announcement that they're going to make everyone who's on SNAP reapply. Again, there was this call earlier this week. It was the PHAC, Pennsylvania Hunger Action Coalition, which, Sharon for Abundance and Feeding PA and a bunch of other similar organizations across the state. We were talking about that, and the general sentiment was people didn't really put too much stock in it. They thought it was just kind of like trying to shift the narrative on SNAP, because it's been getting so much attention, and that it's, a program that's rampant with fraud, abuse, and waste. And, there are no timelines, there are no specifics. People kind of, on that call at least, we're like, we're not worrying about it until we see or hear anything more about it, thinking it's just kind of a, so I'm hoping their read is right, but we'll see. See what happens. Yeah. All right, any other thoughts, questions, comments about SNAP or resiliency planning or anything else that we covered there? Okay. Let's move on then to our working group updates. Rachel, do you want to do the network development update?
Yeah. Still processing that conversation.
Sorry.
It's okay. So, we are moving forward with so I think for context for everyone, in case the last update was missed. We had a big survey that went out to the wider food system with big questions about what they want from the food system, and Stan provided a list of examples, including resource map, Skillshare workshops, networking events, missing things like that.
Yeah.
So basically the resounding sort of feedback was a resource tool, sort of like a web page where they can find different resources, a list of what do you call it? A list of contacts, or a kind of email chain of to be able to access everyone in the network. And then I'm blanking on the third one. I think they're all very sort of tied. They were all sort of resource access, rather than, we were thinking more networking opportunities, but a lot of people want the resource stuff. So we're working on a Padlet. Is that the right word? Yeah, Padlet. Basically an online resource tool that is pretty collaborative, which is cool. I think that's sort of the next step, which we'll be asking all of you, I think, is to input different resources that will plug into this as a starting point. And yeah, we'll kind of see where it goes from there. Did I miss it?
No, that was it. I'm happy to send the Padlet around to all of you. Just a place to put links and resources and data, publications, could be anything.
Yeah. And got us started with a draft in Padlet, and I mean that last time, and we're starting to outline it and add to it and stuff. So it's cool to see it starting to come together.
Myself a note to circulate it.
Thanks. Anyone have questions on network development?
I do feel like that working group, our attendance has been dwindling quite a bit.
Yeah.
We started off with 10 members, and a few of the calls have been quite small. So maybe at the beginning of the year we can put out a call for anyone wants to join or something. I don't know how I'm going to handle that, but it would be great to have. I think the three of us there have been the majority of the call for the last couple of calls. So yeah, I don't know, just a thought there.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. We could also do, I think, maybe some one-on-one outreach to the people who had been attending before.
Totally.
And hey, this is where this work is going.
Yeah.
Are you still interested? Can you come back?
I think now that we're having tangible projects, we can probably get people a little bit more involved, because as you all know, when you're first getting started, it's a lot of like abstract conversation. They might have lost people a little bit, so.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is fair, so.
Share what the scope of that group is?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say it more eloquently.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is kind of, it's called network development, so thinking about how to kind of develop, grow the network of people who are participating in the Food Policy Council. So part of that is, thinking about, are there, which we didn't really start with this, but, are there particular stakeholders, particular groups or individuals that we want to invite in, to have participating, or, as with the survey, like what are the resources, or the activities or things that that would be of most service, that would be of most help to the folks who are participating. Yeah, so that's why we started with the survey, got some feedback, and trying to get this resource guide to respond to that.
Gotcha. I think longer term, it would be cool for that group to sort of be like almost a living organism, just reacting. If we have like a event or like a sort of format that we follow that, if Anne's seeing a lot of people needing housing, like she can just use that group, that sort of structure to form people, different organizations around housing issues and things like that. So it would be cool for that to just be like the group that brings people together in a way to,
I wonder if there's a way to leverage the grantees from the recent policy grants, because they have a vested interest in the work that we're doing, and maybe have them also kind of bring in folks from their network by using the grantees as an entry point to kind of grow the itself.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. It's something I've thought about, like, there's all this great work that's happening, that's being supported through these grants, and like need to figure out how to bring that to kind of have stronger bridges, I guess, between that and some of the other work that's happening through the council generally. I hadn't thought about connecting it specifically to that group, but I think, thinking specifically about the Sustainable Business Network project that will be, kind of working with different businesses and things like that. That's, I think, a really good opportunity to bring new people in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion.
Maybe those projects become a focus of the spring general membership meeting to give people a platform to talk a little bit about what they've done so far, progress update for everybody else.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Have those grants already been dispersed and have they started?
I've been getting nudges from Max.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
No, we've had a long delay getting a final grant agreement from the solicitor's office. And we are nearing the end of that. We have a almost final draft. So the goal was to be able to send them out today, based on what was not in my inbox as of this morning. It seems unlikely that will happen. I don't know. But hopefully, if not today, then it will be early next week, that we'll be able to get the grant agreements out. Once they're signed and returned, then we can get the checks sent, and projects can get underway. But yeah, been getting a lot of phone calls and emails from the grantees asking about what's going on. So.
Do you anticipate that that'll delay the timeline for implementation for the grants as well?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, it's been like 2.5 months, so things will probably shift back by about that much.
Yeah.
But once you disperse funds, that 2026 ARPA funding deadline is not a concern, correct?
Correct.
You've distributed the money and that's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, thoughts about network development? All right, we can move to the food security awareness campaign. So this, our working group meetings are the first Tuesday of the month. So for November, it was election day. which also is like right in the middle of all of the SNAP pause. So I think most of the people who are participating in that group are from pantries. I also I didn't because I was kind of in the middle of all of that too. I didn't send an agenda or a reminder or anything. So Carla was the only one who came to our November meeting. She and I had a good discussion. We had a good chance to chat and catch up. But essentially there's no significant update here from the last time. I will say I have been having some one-on-one conversations with people. As Rachel mentioned, this is a group that's in its early brainstorming kind of stages, and I feel like we're on the edge of losing people if we're not kind of making more progress. So that's what I'm trying to do, some one-on-one outreach and bring some more concrete things to our next meeting in early December to say here's an outline, a framework for what this campaign could look like. I will say also Neighbors Helping Neighbors on the main line, their pantry there. They've been participating in this working group, and essentially during the SNAP pause, they kind of launched a mini version of a kind of awareness campaign that we've been talking about, and sent me over some of the resources that they put together, and so they got a good response. So I think that's also something we can look at our next meeting and build from. So yeah, that's kind of where that is.
I mean, I do think food security awareness has been top of mind a lot.
Totally.
So you've got some organic momentum.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of some of the conversations I've been having with folks is do we kind of just get something out now because it's so present, and then kind of build some of the other pieces as we go. There might be some of that. Yeah.
Can you remind me, is the target is more so to sort of build identity around those who struggle with food insecurity rather than where to find food, right? The campaign.
Yeah, I think it's less about where to find food because there are other resources that already kind of do that now, but more kind of increasing awareness among the general population about the fact that food insecurity exists in Montgomery County, and
hidden probably more so.
yeah. And then that's part of one of our last meetings. We brainstormed well, what are the actions? It's great to increase awareness, but then also we want to try and move people to act, recognizing that creating behavior change is difficult, but what are some of the actions that we would want people to take? And so we kind of came up with a list of whether it's volunteering or donating or advocating or sharing information or learning more or whatever, kind of a list of things. So yeah, those are some of the goals.
I mean, I can really see that tying into this resiliency plan. I don't have any actual planning experience, so I don't know.
We'll rub off on you eventually.
Yeah, but I'm very much on this, I don't know, more tangible stuff. But yeah, that just to me ties into that sort of piece. And you mentioned the 12 businesses that were able to immediately tap in, building a network of businesses who can easily implement, either free food or discounted food like that. To me, just feels like there's pieces there. There's thread there, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think one thing we've kind of struggled with in the awareness campaign conversations is kind of identifying the audience. I think talked about there being multiple different audiences, and so businesses could be one, and then there would be different kind of communication around different ways that businesses could get involved as opposed to just an individual. Yeah. All right. farmer development. We had a good conversation. So last time yeah, we're talking about a mentorship program for new and beginning farmers in this working group. And we did some outreach to a few different other like farmer mentorship type programs. It was pretty interesting. There was like a really wide range of different ways that they are set up and kind of what they're looking to accomplish. So I think that was helpful for kind of our conversation to see like a lot of different approaches. I think the short summary of our conversation was it seems like creating a mentorship program there's the opportunity to create one specifically in Montgomery County. It wouldn't kind of be overlapping from some of the other ones that exist for a few different reasons. But we don't really have a sense of what the like level of demand or interest for something like that would be. And so before kind of doing a bunch of work to design and set up and promote, we talked about hosting an event sometime early next year to try and gauge level of interest from mentors and mentees, and two, I'd say like one of the other themes that has come up through all of our conversations in that working group is about just kind of like building community and connection relationship among farmers here, so that the event, you know, that would be another kind of goal or purpose for the event. Anything else you'd add?
Yeah, I guess it just seemed to some of the like the farmers in the group shared how sort of this organic piece of being able to call up another local farmer for this local knowledge of where do you what varieties do you like, or how do you treat this specific local issue, like that piece it won't quite be solved with the mentorship program. So that's sort of this other like lower level, but like smaller need of maybe email group, or that's also going to be we're going to kind of talk about in the gatherings, like how do we just connect farmers in that regard. So yeah.
Yep. Any thoughts or questions around that?
Are you all connected with Krista Barfield and Farmer John?
No, Krista, but
yeah, I've talked with Krista a few times. She hasn't been involved with this. I mean, they do have, I think like their main farm is in Chester County. They have the Elkins estate where they're doing some work, and I can't remember if there's someone else from Farmer John that has joined a caller too. I don't think within this group, but short answer is no, not very much.
I just thought Krista or her group would be interesting because they started in Montgomery County, and just the experience of being a new farmer, being a Black woman who farms is sort of out of the ordinary, and what sort of resources were available to her, and what sort of mentorship they might be able to provide to other folks that are looking to, build out farming enterprise as well. Would be interesting perspectives.
what was the group that? And I'm thinking, but the person interviewed to be a member of they're starting a farmer group here.
Oh, Yoshi.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, this is one of the grantees. Yeah, they're starting. I think it's called Black Earth Hub. There's like a collective for BIPOC farmers, basically, for the purposes of the grant in Montgomery County, trying to. Yeah, I mean, it's something new that they're starting. But yeah, I appreciate the suggestion to reconnect with Farmer John. I know they had been doing, I think they called it agpreneur, It's kind of like a business training, focused on ag businesses. I don't really know exactly kind of if that's something that's still happening or where that is. So yeah, let me check out.
Your comment about Farmer John made me wonder if there's if it would be worthwhile to reach out to Philadelphia young farmers. No, like young people in Philadelphia where there might be just a larger cohort of young people interested in doing something like this, but a lack of access to land, where there might be interest in out of Philadelphia to some
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah, when we were having conversations about like, well, who would we even include as mentees? Like, yeah, wouldn't this be an opportunity to bring people to the county? To move here and purchase land or lease land?
Or, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
so
wondering.
I think we've not cracked that nut about like, how do we exactly that, but
Right,
Yeah.
or like they're learning how to farm on a small urban plot, but
yeah.
how do they take that next step?
Yeah, or a place like the seed farm, which they're not in Montgomery County, but I can't remember what county they're in.
Yeah,
But
then we
I
have
think,
Valley.
yeah, they have, so that's an incubator farm who, yeah, they could very well be a good market for that.
I mean, if you're interested in exploring like other businesses or farmers, potential farmers in Philly, I'm happy to help with that. I ran across a ton of them in my old work, and I think that again, a lot of them are thinking of themselves as urban farmers, right? Because they have a rooftop or a backyard, but not really a lot of space to grow. And I think it could be appealing if there was a case to be made for finding land in Montgomery County.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, we'll probably take you up on that. Yeah, I have talked or tried to get, there's like Saul Agricultural High School, which, yeah, I've gone back and forth with some of those folks about trying to get them to come to our meetings, but might reach out and just set up a separate time to talk about, because I know they do a lot of kind of farmer development. I think they have an apprenticeship program, but I think would also just have thoughts about that kind of like potential pipeline.
I mean, Nina's pretty tapped in.
Yeah.
So Nina Berryman, is the,
She's with the USDA Farm Service
yeah,
Agency.
which now they're back.
basically.
She responded to an email like I'm
Yeah,
finally back at
yeah,
my
yeah,
job.
right.
So,
Yeah, I think once we have a date set for this initial event, then I'll probably reach out and see if you know contacts you want to share it with, and yeah, there's some other resources within the city that we can, can distribute the event info to, see if we can get some interest that way.
okay.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on that topic? Cool. All right, so a few other pretty quick updates here. Leadership team seats, we are hoping to have our two other leadership team members approved at the Board of Commissioners meeting on November 13th, but we were not able to get on the agenda. So the next commissioner meeting is not until December 18th. So we are in line for that. So we will hopefully have a full leadership team once again after the 18th. I let all the folks who had applied know that you have to wait a bit longer. But that's the update there. General membership meeting scheduled for the 11th. Put the announcement out in the newsletter that went out last week. Didn't get a lot of, haven't gotten a lot of RSVPs yet. I think it was kind of like buried in the newsletter. So I talked to Caitlin about sending another announcement out hopefully soon, and hopefully we'll get some more RSVPs there, but feel free to share it. I can, you know, in the follow-up, I'll send the registration link so can share it out. And then Ag Venture is officially coming to a close in just about a week at the end of November. We have, last I checked, I think 8 responses, 8 people who have participated. So it was 0 for a long time. So I was happy to see a few come in. Yeah, I think, you know, probably sometime December or January. And it anyway has like with Anne and Stephen and myself and some of the other comms folks here in the county who were like planning and putting that all together. I imagine we'll have or I was thinking of scheduling a like kind of debrief and thinking about if we want to do it again next year, what would we want to do differently? I mean, I think the main thing from my perspective is it just needed, I think, more time and effort to promote it, which I didn't have. So that's like thinking about what it would take to do it next year if it is something we want to do. But we'll be getting some cool Ag Venture mugs and other swag for the people who completed it, and yeah, may have extras to share. We'll see.
Someone put something in the chat.
Oh, thanks. Oh, thanks, Caitlin.
Sam, did they have to complete every box on there for?
No, it's like bingo.
Okay.
So I think there were 3 different like levels of prizes. I don't remember exactly which prize was which, but you know, if you could complete 1 row, then you get a mug, and if you complete 2 or 3 rows, then you get like a lunch box. Yeah.
We had a big stack at the farm and they've all been, so there's probably 25 people out there with
Great.
flyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's a social media post reminding people that it's coming to a close and they better check all the boxes off ASAP.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
Can you see what that is?
So, sorry.
I can't believe you haven't been playing. It's basically it's like the trail challenge, if you are familiar with the county's trail challenge. It is a farm themed challenge where we dreamed up a bunch of stuff that you had to do to check boxes off your bingo card. You know, eat locally produced ice cream, you know, take a picture with a scarecrow, like reasonably attainable activities that you could do on Montgomery County farms, preserved or otherwise, and that's basically it.
I mean, depending on what you decide to do with it moving forward, like maybe at the farmer, maybe January meeting, whatever, that could be an opportunity to seize. I do really, as a farmer, I do believe in it could be really impactful. I think like just the timing of it and, you know, like if we have some time to play, like, you know, account for that and promoting that in our own posts and everyone else's posts and in our, like any little CSA flyers, or you know what I mean? Like, I know we put it in a box, one of our weekly box, things like that. Like there are ways for farmers to promote it themselves. So if we can seize that group, when we're together in January, like if you decide to do it again, I hope we do. So I do think it could be.
I wonder if there's a way to use or work with parks to help promote it, because I feel like they do a lot of promotions for fall events, especially you know, with getting kids involved and whatnot. If there's, you know, again, this is for next year, but being able to kind of piggyback off of their social media and their promotion of parks, especially through the fall, to tack this on as part of something fun you could do as you're doing all of those fall outings.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we did in the late September, early October, we got some like yard signs printed, and so went to the like Peterman's Farmstead and the Northtown Farm Park and have the signs up there. And as I was there doing that, I was like, oh, right, this would have been a good opportunity to like, you know, just have the signs here earlier, but also think about kind of the programming that they're doing and make sure the folks who are leading that programming could talk about it and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think to kind of both your points, there are ways to promote it that wouldn't be as time intensive kind of for me or for us. Yeah. I think also, I mean, I like, and also some weekend in October, I went to, I can't remember the name of the farm, but it was, you know, one of the like fall farm hayride and corn maze and whatever. And there were just like so many people there and like nothing about adventure, right? But that was like, it was like, right, this is exactly what we're trying to tap into. And this is, so I think trying to work with some of those farms. Yeah, I don't know. And if that's something like with, I don't, we talked with you and Stephen about like trying to do some outreach there, but I don't know, kind of rethinking how to engage with, you know, the farms that are offering those kind of the agritourism stuff. So we'll see what it looks like. Next one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking also for social media, showing pictures of people completing some of the tasks. I think Caitlin and Tammy did that in our employee newsletter. Like I think one of them had like some ice cream or something. Cause that's done a lot with the trail challenge where people will like post a picture of them at a trail and it's like, hey, look at the trail challenge, check out this park. And it's like, oh, I never knew about that park. Maybe I should go there. So showing people like, well, where can I get some locally made ice cream? Or where can I go get some local honey or something? Like having a picture of a person actually there doing it. And so the 8 people that completed it, I don't know if you're doing like a post survey or anything, but maybe reaching out and asking those folks like if they took any pictures and if they'd be willing to share so we can use it for promotional materials.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that was like part of the intention, what was to do that. So that's the way we have it set up is like, you know, you submit a form saying with your bingo card showing what activities you did, and then to like verify that you actually did them, we have you, submit a picture of yourself eating the ice cream or doing the corn maze or whatever it is. So we have some of those pictures. I just like, you know, again, I didn't kind of get it together to look at the pictures and then send them over to Caitlin and kind of develop that content. And, you know, also a lot of them did come in like pretty recently as the program is kind of winding down.
I just have another thought too. I don't know if you did this, but like, what about every farm that participates has to like donate some sort of gift card that would be a winner of like a gift of award for a winner, like, right? Like, I mean, every farm could give like $20 gift card or something, right? Just to up the winnings a little bit more and gives them, you know, motivates them to promote it a little bit.
Yeah, higher stakes.
Yeah.
For the funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't remember if I put that in. I think I had the same, a similar thought of like if you could have a raffle at the end for everyone who participated, you know, and there's like a local farm box, whether it's gift cards or, you know, different farm products. Yeah,
we're giving you a lot, but I just feel like waiting in, like, put as much work on the farmers as possible.
Yeah.
You know, that you shouldn't have to do all this work that we're telling you to go. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something, I mean, I don't want to sidetrack our mentorship program, but that working group could also help.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, work on. Yeah. Great. Well, thanks for the ideas, suggestions. I mean, a little.
A good segue into planning for 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Also, I'm just thinking like when we schedule kind of more of a formal time to debrief, can extend that to the leadership team. So if folks want to come, yeah. Okay, so yeah, we've got a little over 10 minutes. We'll talk a little bit about planning for 2026 and then wrap up. So yeah, as we get towards the end of the year, a few things that I have been thinking about. One is putting together kind of like an annual report about things Food Policy Council has done this past year. That's something I'll probably start working on soonish, and then I can share. And if people have feedback or want to contribute or have other ideas of what to include, definitely welcome feedback on that. Something I think I've done beginning of this year is trying to like put together a timeline of like all the different, what's going to be happening with all the different working groups and what are some of the other projects and things that are going on. So again, that's probably either December or January. We'll try to put that together and share it so we can kind of have that like bird's eye view of all the different kind of pieces that we know of now that are currently happening. I think with kind of our new leadership team members starting a little bit later, probably have their first meeting will be January. So then I think probably looking at a leadership team retreat, maybe like March or so. Have a few meetings with new folks on board, and then kind of a time for us all to come together and do a little bit more planning for the council in general. And yeah, I think one thing I had been thinking about was okay, so I'll share my first thought and then how it maybe has evolved based on our earlier conversation. But I'm interested in doing either or both, really, like I think a strategic plan for the Food Policy Council. Now that we've like gotten some things established and tried some things and are figuring things out, I think like having the leadership team do some like goal setting and clarifying like where we want to be going and what our role is and that kind of thing. And I think doing a kind of food systems plan that I mentioned before is something that could also be helpful. One thing I was struck by as people were applying for the leadership team, recently was I think almost everyone said they were interested in learning more about how the food system in Montgomery County works. So that's something where I feel like, right, if we put together a food systems plan that had information about like, well, what's currently happening in the food system and what are areas, where we, I don't know, like priorities that we want to address, things like that. I see it as different from like a strategic plan for the Food Policy Council. Not sure what others think about that. And then, so that was kind of what I've been thinking about, like, well, I don't know if we can reasonably do both next year, if that seems too ambitious, if there's one that we want to prioritize above the other. And then with our earlier conversation about kind of like broader level planning, not just about food systems, but about kind of multidimensional poverty and all those things. Not quite sure how that fits in either. But those are my thoughts, and wanted to see what anyone else thought. Yeah, just as a kind of like planting a seed. Yeah, for things for us to think about going forward.
I think if I had to prioritize them, I would probably put a strategic plan over any other food systems plan document, just because the food systems plan could be incorporated as part of the larger strategy and also kind of set the tone for 2026 and beyond of things to prioritize for this group. That's just interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Shannon, go ahead.
I'm curious for folks who have more experience with planning than I do, and I'm looking at you, but also other folks who have more experience with planning. Um, I'm like in my head, sort of in the nonprofit sector, you can make a plan that is a page or 2 pages long that took you, 3 to 5 hours to write, and you brought together a group twice and sort of discussed it and sort of made a general plan, or you can, write a document that is 20 pages long that is much more complex. Like, is there space maybe for us to do some planning that's sort of shorter, more action oriented, more sort of like just more concise, that's more sort of efficient, and then some that's more longer and more data driven? Or is there a different way to be thinking about sort of like our matching our effort to our planning?
I mean, I think I can see a need for both. I think that the Food Policy Council has its fingers in a lot of things, because you are a connector, right? You have talked about how you have brought people together. If anything, sometimes it's spent strategically thinking about what the Food Policy Council could do best, or should be focusing on, could be helpful to you, your job. But I think that, maybe putting a food systems plan or some elements of a food systems plan into the sustainability plan seems doable. I don't know, I think you should decide what is most helpful to you.
Yeah,
Wait, can you unpack what food systems plan would look like? Is it more of like a tool for people, or can you just, I guess, or is
yeah.
that a common term?
No, I don't think it is, and it's not like a defined thing.
Okay,
What
you had in mind?
yeah.
Like,
When was the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council, it was like a 2-year process to develop a Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan. I wasn't thinking of something as, as extensive, but essentially, the idea of kind of like doing some research and putting together like a state of the food system report, that's kind of that educational piece about like what's happening in the food system, what does it look like. And then again, in Pittsburgh, we did both kind of general community engagement sessions, and we did like stakeholder roundtables. So bringing together farmers and retailers and, whatever the composters to get like specific feedback and recommendations. And then, that plan was like 150 different recommendations for things that we could do to improve the food system. So I would think, I was again imagining something not as expansive in scope, but something that is somewhat data driven in terms of like, there's the research component in terms of what's happening, what do things look like, and then some element of maybe I think maybe using that to develop some recommendations and then getting feedback from people on or prioritizing those recommendations. Yeah, so then we have kind of a plan of like, these are, the goal is to increase acreage and fruit and vegetable production, by X amount in the next 30 years, or, something like that, where we have kind of goals for, or reduce food waste by X number of pounds. We could get to that kind of level of goals.
well, I mean, I feel like you're like organically collecting a lot of feedback. I would imagine just in your day-to-day, but also like our general membership meetings and these calls and our working groups. Like, is there a way to just capture what we're already doing without creating more work? To get to kind of collect that input.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like Anne's point, like there's like a lot of things that are happening or connected
Yeah.
to a lot of things, but that's where I feel like having some kind of planning process where it comes together and is like organized in some way.
Right, so you have something that says, these are the work plan for the food policy council for 20.
Right.
Not that you don't care about fixing someone's farm fence, but you know, you have to draw lines somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree with your suggestion, Davey, of starting with like a strategic plan that outlines kind of more clearly, like, and I think that's kind of your point too, Anne, of like what, I don't know what the like scope for the Food Policy Council is, and I think maybe like an outcome of that could be defining like what other planning or goal setting or things are necessary.
I think it will help you explain to people what the food policy council is.
Yeah.
Right, you get that question and you don't know what to tell people, but if we have a strategic plan or a work plan or whatever you want to call it, you say, these are our priorities for 2020.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with Shannon, it doesn't need to be 20 or 30 pages. It can
Right.
be a 5-page working document. And if you are interested in like setting it up into a framework with the top level goals and the action items and how you measure it and the resource allocation, I'm happy to help with some tools for that as well.
Cool. Sounds good. Great. Well, it's been helpful to think it through a bit. Yeah, I think, like I said, probably once we get the new leadership team members on board, probably be more like spring of next year, we can kind of start digging into more of what it will look like, and we'll probably reach back out then around that. But yeah, helpful to kind of start thinking about it. So.
And just one other small thought, hopefully my thoughts come across clear. Kind of going back to what Shannon was saying about the multi-dimensional lens of poverty, and you were questioning like how could we pull that in here? With the strategic plan, so I was thinking about something that my office, we were trying to look at things, this acronym PSE, from like policy, systems, and environment. Yeah, policy systems and environmental change. So kind of merging Shannon's thought with your thought of like, if we kind of broke it up into these 3 categories of like, what could the Food Policy Council, what could we do in these different categories as it relates to policy, as it relates to systems, and as it relates to environment? And we can try to come up with like a strategic plan that maybe touches on those 3 categories. And sorry, I'm trying to lose my train of thought, but is everybody following so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you came up with a strategic plan that kind of like touches on those 3 categories, it's touching a little bit on that multi-dimensional lens of poverty, possibly, because we're looking at it from a bigger scope of like what we could actually accomplish as a Food Policy Council. And then out of the strategic plan, you could eventually move toward what you were talking about of like what were you calling it, the food systems plan or something? But like you would have the big umbrella of like how will we be addressing policy change, I guess, within the county? How will we be addressing systematic change, and then environmental change, and then it kind of just streamed down from there.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I think that policy systems environment could be a good framework to think about. I know it's again something Shannon and I were talking about the other day of just like like thinking about more the policy level, right? That isn't something we've really talked about that much or kind of done a lot of like that like policy level work here. So yeah, that framework could be a good way to kind of just like think about things in a different way. Yeah, Shannon, go ahead. And I know we're just about, or we're a few minutes over, so I'll let you have the last word here.
Well, I really agree with what you just said. Sort of like looking at it in our strategic plan from different lenses. I wonder if we can, in our strategic plan, have a piece that's like, this is what we think is going to happen to the most vulnerable people in our society from a multidimensional poverty lens and from an intersectional identity lens. And then, if we have that, other folks can use that as well. I think that can be a useful tool for other organizations and other spaces. But then we can do some planning off of that in terms of our strategy on the Food Policy Council of how can we best serve the most vulnerable people and the people who are going to be most impacted by the current situation that we're in, as well as the whole of Montgomery County, to make sure that we're keeping an eye on everybody so that everybody's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that, kind of work that we do can then also be a tool that others can use as well. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for again for sharing your thoughts on that. It's helpful. And like I said, I know we're a few minutes over, so want to wrap up here. But anyone have any announcements, updates, things that they want to share before we conclude?
I just wanted to let everybody know that in 2026 for Earth Day, I am planning a sustainability marketplace that will take place right outside the county building, and it'll be geared towards employees, but it'll be a public event and looking to attract vendors that are working in different aspects of sustainability that employees can learn from and shop from. And looking to also do this by application. So wanting to have a sort of screening to make sure that the businesses or organizations that we're sort of having been at the marketplace are actually truly sustainable. And so just flagging for all of you, because I think it could touch on some of the issue areas that we talked about already. Could be a way of attracting some farmers as well to the marketplace, but it's something that I'd like to be both educational as well as fun and sort of making sustainability a little bit more practical for how people are living their daily lives.
Sounds like a really cool event.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Anyone else? Any other updates, announcements? The only one that I have is so in one of our previous icebreaker type questions, I shared that I love tahini and just like put it on everything. And Anne recently came into a lot of tahini that she didn't know what to do with, so she
Robin, or my coworker Chloe, who Sam has met, had someone she knows give her a whole case of tahini. And then she gave me 3 jars of tahini. And after I made a whole lot of hummus, just one jar kind of hit a wall. And she's reported that she's been making tahini shakes, which I've never had before. But I gave my leftover tahini untouched, not spoiled or anything like that. I gave it to Sam.
And then I made tahini cookies last night, which I brought in to share. So Avery helped and put the chocolate chips in. So yeah. Yeah, so that's my announcement. But all right, we're gonna say bye, Shannon. Enjoy your time in Cincinnati.
Thank you all.
All right.
Bye.